Welcome to Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton City School District. I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf, and today we're thrilled to be talking to Mrs. Kim Nidy. Kim's our Director of Technology at North Canton City Schools. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, you've been here for quite a few years and so on, I know that, and have a rich history with Hoover and our school district. So before we start talking about technology and what you do here, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in technology before becoming the director.
Okay. Well, yes, I've been here a long time. So I am a Hoover grad, so go Vikings, right? I graduated in 86, and back then I took it was called vocational classes back then. They're called career tech now, but I took the word processing vocational class back then. Okay. So I kind of started with when we started with technology. My senior year, we had these very large word processing computers that we used, and so I was kind of right from the very beginning with technology as we got started here with technology.
Yeah,
so then I went to Akron U and graduated with a teaching degree and in business. It's a business education degree. I had a minor in business management, and so then started at McKinley for a couple years, taught a Jobs for Ohio's Graduates program.
Sure, another program, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great program helping kids find employment and stay in employment. So, but then I got the call that there was a position open here, so I was thrilled and got to come back home.
Great.
And that was, a long, long time ago. 95, 96 was when I came back. So I taught here for like 18 years and then went into administration. So I guess I should say my husband graduated from Hoover as well, and all three of my kids. So we're like the North Canton poster children.
District residents, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Been here forever. So.
Yeah. So you became technology director when?
It was in, let's see. So I taught for 18 years, then I was a innovation specialist for 2 years, then I was director of instruction for 2 years, and this is my 6th year as director of technology.
All those have been in technology and so on.
Yeah.
Good.
And really learning that technology's place is to support teaching and learning.
Sure, yeah.
From being in the classroom and using it to now, helping make that happen.
Right.
So.
Well, I just missed your the piece where you started in high school, basically on the computers and so on. My one of the best classes I took in high school, the most valuable, was typing.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, and
me too.
I made a little bit of money in college typing guys' papers, and this was on typewriters at the time.
Me too.
There was no laptops or computers or cloud or anything like that.
You had to use you had to actually measure the margins.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I did too. Mr. Nidy's, I'll give a shout out. So
the biggest decision we had was it Pica or Delete or Elite. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I liked Pica because it was bigger font and I had to write less.
And typing before you had like the automatic correction and you had to use the eraser.
Yes.
Or then you got the tape that you could stick down in there. Yeah. See, we go way back with. Yep.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Different world today. But so speaking of different world, our kids are now, we're a 1-to-1 school. Mm-hmm. What's that mean here at North Canton City Schools?
So 1-to-1 is one device for every teacher and every student. And I saw the value of it a long time ago. I was always lucky enough because I taught technology and business that I had a computer lab. So I always got to use, technology with students, and I knew that it would be valuable school-wide. So we started the conversation here probably in like 2008, and we were actually on track to maybe move forward with it. And then the economy, we had all the problems with the economy, and so we just had a big setback. But in 2013, we were lucky enough, our community supported and passed a permanent improvement levy. And I know it may sound silly, but I'm so thankful literally every day that our community did that, because it has made it so that we have the tools that we need to do what we need to do in the classrooms. And even when the pandemic happened, we were leaps and bounds ahead of other districts around the whole country. We already had the technology in place. So our kids, I felt like, had a dip, obviously, but we had what we needed to get through it. And it's because of that. Because of that, vote back then in 2013 and 2012, whatever it was.
Right, and I think when the pandemic hit, we were our kids took home their technology. We have Chromebooks, and so they have access to technology and all of their course resources and teacher resources and all those things. So our 3rd through 12th graders took them home.
Yep, and had been taking them home,
and we scrambled to get our K2 ones home that week. And I remember
did.
that day. It was March 13th, right?
Yeah,
that was the day.
Woo, that was all hands on deck. We had, we got it.
It was a scramble, yeah.
We had the devices, but I suppose to clarify for listeners, we have in our K2 buildings, we have them in carts.
Right.
So we had a device for every student, but they were in carts in the classrooms. So we just disassembled that and were able to then send the technology home.
Right. Yep.
So
good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, what types of applications? I mean, a student has a Chromebook, teachers obviously, and one of the things I'd like to point out too is our teachers have changed their devices over the last few years at least. We used to have the desktop units and the boxes, if you will, and now primarily our teachers are using laptops more than those other pieces, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Which it's interesting. I'm on a statewide tech director listserv, and that conversation literally has been happening between yesterday and today. There are still districts out there who are on desktops.
Wow.
And the conversation was, desktops or laptops, which I'm firmly in the position that laptops are the best way to go because they have them with them to take them home. They're not anchored. Sure. They don't have to be in room 112 to do work or to use it effectively.
Right, from teacher collaboration that they can meet together and all take their and have shared documents to team teaching and taking kids different places and taking the technology with you, sure, and access. So great. Good stuff. Well, what kind of applications do our students and teachers use for the most part?
We have a lot of different applications, but we've tried to be strategic about what we have and how we're using it. So we have an LMS, and everybody is, that's have a student in the district is familiar with the term Schoology. Yeah. Some people call it Schoolology.
Right. Yeah. But an LMS, and sometimes I got to get folks on our podcast to talk about it. So an LMS is
a learning management system. Right. And so right away when we started to hand out devices back, in 2013, 14, whatever it was, we heard right away, we need a way to manage digitally. It's kind of like if I have a folder system set up for hard documents in my classroom, I need that in a digital space. Right. So we immediately started to look for a solution to that. So we have been, we've had Schoology for I think 8 or 9 years now. And it is a way for, teachers can create folders, put all the resources in there. They can assign work through that system, retrieve it, grade it, give feedback. It's pretty elaborate what you can do with it.
Yeah, so it's an electronic version of us old people's version of the 3-ring binder for each class, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and it's nice, because kids have access to their materials all the time.
Right.
If they, left something in a locker or whatnot, a lot of our curriculum is online now, so they have access to their textbooks and different systems.
Documents, videos, shared documents that kids can work on together or teachers can edit right there and leave it in the folder for the kids to see, and lots and lots of cool stuff there on those electronic learning management systems called Schoology.
Yes. They also have, you mentioned video, we provide Screencastify, which is a video. They can, create different videos and share. We have Cami, which is almost like a fancy way of working with PDFs, where you can do markups and do some really incredible things with feedback, iterations before you're turning in an assignment and whatnot. Sure. We're rolling out Canva. I haven't totally announced it yet, but it took me a while to get it up and running, but Canva's free for districts and very powerful graphic design type program. So we're going to be very shortly in a couple weeks rolling that out to the whole district as well. So,
and we're a Google platform,
so
everything's on Google Docs, Google Calendar, Gmail, all those things, and that makes it very nice. And it's a great sharing platform for folders and access to shared drives and folders and that.
It encourages collaboration for sure. I mean,
most of our administrative agendas and those kind of things are on a Google platform where we can add and edit and delete and keep notes, and they're accessible to everybody. So very cool system. Yeah, very cool. Well, you certainly have been involved in technology for quite a while, and you've got a recent certification called CETL. Can you tell us about that, what it is, and what that means?
Sure. So there's a national organization called COSIN, which is, and I always get it wrong, so I actually wrote it down. It's Consortium for School Network. There's a national organization. There's also an Ohio organization. So this is a national, actually, it's probably international certification that you can get. We in Ohio, we've really pushed through our Ohio COSIN chapter. They've really been pushing our leaders in technology to go through the program because it's very diverse. And, so I think one thing that's important too is that a lot of tech directors have come either from an IT background and do not have classroom experience,
right,
or they've come from a classroom and they don't have necessarily that out in the workplace IT experience. So it's kind of interesting. You fall usually into one of those camps. And going through this, it kind of takes you through, they have a framework of essential skills. So they talk about leadership and vision, strategic planning, ethics and policies, different, management of communications and business and data and privacy and all that. So it is the full picture of what you're involved in as a school district, IT leader.
Sure.
So I was in a cohort of colleagues from around the state that we met every Wednesday during our lunch hour for several months because there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of studying. And then in the spring, I had to sit for a test. And take the test to get the certification. So I'm happy.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I felt very prepared. And, it's also a lot about networking. So,
right.
I have all of these resources, all of these tech directors from around the state that we lean on each other, rely on each other. And it's been a very, very positive experience for me.
Good stuff. What's the numbers on CETL? Do you know of how many are certified in Ohio or approximately? I'm sure it's changing all the time.
I did know that number, but I don't have it written down. But I do know that we, as a state, we have the most certified CETLs in the country, which I think we should be very proud of, just to see that organically happening. Even in our own county, I was the first one in Stark County, but because I publicized it, at some of our county meetings, we've had at least one more. Canton South, their tech director was just certified, so it's growing. We're actually explaining the value to each other, and so we're seeing more and more people go through the process.
Right.
So, and now we're mentoring. I guess I should say that too. I'm in my second year now of mentoring. So I've mentored a tech director at Stowe, and I'm now mentoring a tech director or a tech coordinator at Little Miami down in the Cincinnati area.
Great.
So
all in the CETL process.
Yep.
And good.
In COSIN and CETL, and we're all just we're just in it to help each other. We all grow together.
Sure.
So
Yep.
Yep.
Well, you learn by staying in groups, networking, and learn from each other. Good stuff. Thanks. So tell us, I want to kind of diverge a little bit on our script here, but talk to me a little bit about our Schoology platform and what we do. We teach and we learn, and that's our fundamental business is to help our kids be prepared for tomorrow. But we teaching is our deal, right?
Right.
Tell me a little bit about how the grade book has changed, because back in the day we used to have the green grade book, and it was basically a spreadsheet on paper.
Yep.
Tell us about today's grade book, what that does.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've been back in the day when we wrote it by hand and we had the calculator. I would calculate it like 3 times because I was always nervous that I missed a number or whatever. So and I think grades were, how do I want to say this, more permanent because of that. In other words, you didn't change, you didn't let kids grow and maybe turn in assignments, different. Maybe they, you look at a driving test, right? We always compare it to something like that. If you go and take the test and you fail the test, you go back and you try again.
Right.
And I think that's that growth mindset, that we try to promote here in North Canton, and that goes into the classroom as well. Kids grow. What they know on this Tuesday, it may be different next Tuesday.
Right. I've always said that not all our kids are going to learn and understand at the same point in time. And we're much more flexible in that than we used to be. Yeah.
And so I think it's lent itself to that now that we have this digital way of doing things that even within the platform, they can retest, they can turn something in, get feedback, take it back, rework it, turn it in again. And so as the teacher updates the grades, that automatically happens within the grade book, and grades are automatically recalculated. So the process becomes easier.
And it's instant and it's accessible by the student,
Right.
by the teacher, and by the parent
Yes.
at 24/7.
Yep.
And when I was building principal, I used to drive kids and parents mostly crazy because I'd say, "Hey, how you doing in class?" And
Right.
they'd say, "Oh, okay." I said, "Is that an okay C or is that an okay A?" And
Right.
it was different for each student. But my point was to know your numbers. You know, it's kind of like our blood pressure and heart rate and cholesterol and all that. You need to know your numbers. And a lot of students know how they're doing exactly. And the key is our partners of parents.
Right.
To make sure that they know how their kids are doing it, that they are instantly accessible. And I'm sure glad my parents didn't have access to my grades back when I was in school. So, but it all worked out, right?
Right.
So, but it is certainly a piece, you know, if we're going to use grades to indicate the level of student learning, then we're all on the same team and we all need to work together, and to know that they're instantly accessible is a key factor. So,
right. No, and parents have so much visibility now that they didn't have. Or, you know, we've talked a lot recently about, you know, doing a postmortem after a grading period.
Right.
What do you do then? You know, like the learning, that opportunity now is gone, you know, where having those grades visible all the time,
Right.
and being able to see those grades whenever you want, you know, that gives you that flexibility to be able to intervene if you know, if help is needed to get them across the finish line.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're constantly, in fact, if a parent's listening to this right now and saying, "Gosh, how do I do that?" You know, we certainly reach out to your building, your teachers, or your building that your kids are in, to say, "Hey, help me get lined up so I can get emails on a weekly basis, or even a daily basis if you want, or to access it live." Is, you know, how's Jeffrey doing in class, and
Right.
you know, how's he doing, and where's he need help is the key factor.
And that we should probably clarify too that that's grades 3 through 12.
Right.
So
Yep.
grade K through 2, they do a little different way of grading down there, and they communicate that to the parents as well. But the grade book through Schoology is grades 3 through 12.
Right. Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, tell us a little bit about your team.
Okay.
Your tech team, and I know it's a small but powerful group, and,
Yes.
you'd love to change that if you could. But tell us about that, and then also what happens in the summer, because I know it does grow a little bit in the summer with some help. But tell us about your tech team and how you do things here.
Sure. I'm very proud of my team. We are small but mighty. So
You should be.
We
They are
talk.
mighty.
We do. We talk a lot about the fact that we're very lucky in that everybody on there has kind of a niche. You know, everybody's like really strong in a certain area, but yet we meet every week and we overlap and we talk about, you know, what's going on in our department, and so we try to keep everybody kind of cross-informed. So we have John Fano, who is also a Hoover grad, has been here a long time, and he is our system administrator. And I'll tell you, his skill set is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Tell us what system administrator means.
Okay, so he handles everything related to the network, all of our accounts, our user accounts. You know, he's the guy, the wizard behind the
Sure.
curtain. You know, he makes sure that if we have a problem with our internet, if we have an account problem, if somebody needs a new account, you know, it's all kind of like account-based and
Right.
network-based job work that he does. But he does a lot of other things as well. And, you know, I'm really proud of him. I mean, even at the county level, he's very well respected. You know, we just put in a firewall here, and, you know, they're looking at what we did here potentially as a model, you know, for the county or at Spark or other schools. So, you know, he's constantly reading and looking into, you know, what can we do better? What can we, you know, implement to make us more secure? So, yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Great guy. Good. And then we have Mark and Ken. So Mark has a diverse background in software. He worked out in industry, you know, for quite many years, but his dad actually worked in hospital and higher education, and I think that, you know, that was important to Mark to kind of emulate those characteristics of his dad, that, you know, get kind of doing your job but also giving back.
Yeah.
And he has a little girl that is very important to him, so the hours work out great, you know, for him to be able to spend time with his daughter.
Over the private sector. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So he is great with researching. Every time we're like, okay, we're going to, change a projector, or we're going to look for this or look for that. He just has that ability to dig in and research the details like nothing I've ever seen
right,
before.
All the specs and everything.
Yep.
I know you guys use a spreadsheet format that he developed
Yep.
that compares products and services that helps us be. You see those online and in tech or in programs and magazines sometimes that compare a product. And
Yeah.
he does that in great detail.
He's like our own little Consumer Reports.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, and I really feel like that contributes, fiscally to keep us fiscally responsible
Right.
with the money that we're spending on our technology here. So, so that is great. And then, so that's Mark Hamrick, and then Ken Lawver rounds out our team. And Ken is, he reminds me a lot of my dad because he's just that guy that can fix anything. I mean, like things that you would not even think about on your own. He's like, well, if I turn it upside down and I glue this, and I mean, he just, he is Mr. Fix-It. So,
so when every student and every teacher, how many devices do we have approximately?
We have about 4,500 Chromebooks. We have just shy of like 1,000 other devices between desktops and laptops.
Right.
But then people forget too, we have a key swipe system.
Right.
We have HVAC, we have security cameras, we have, I mean, literally technology is in every nook and cranny.
Yes, it is, and everything we do. And Ken's a big part of he's our fix-it man.
He is.
Yep. So good.
Yep.
Good.
So we have a small but very mighty team. And then I will give a shout out to Dusty Dannemiller. He's a teacher at the middle school, but he and Tim McCarty, who is a teacher here at the high school, they come in and work with us in the summer. I know you had just asked about summer work. So we hired them in the summer to come in and give us a few more hands. And they've been doing that for quite a few years now. So I consider them a part of our team.
Yeah.
But, they help with, all kinds of different things along the way. So
Sure. Well, and like we mentioned, the number of devices and Chromebooks and so on. And what's the cycle for Chromebook? 4 years?
5 years.
5 years?
So we have it set up again, back to that improvement levy. We have all of our devices set up on a 5 year. Now, that's not to say that some of them don't become usable still. Like, for example, our teacher laptops are due to be replaced this year. But we are squeaking by with hardly any extra devices right now. So we'll take a lot, the ones that are viable, and we'll put them to good use. We don't let anything go unattended or unused around here.
I think
you
used the word frugal earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but we're on a 5 year replacement cycle for devices.
Yeah.
That usually works out well.
Right, and we use interactive projectors and smart boards, and that piece where even our software, some of it is interactive with the kids, and they're not just consumers; they're producers.
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So
Awesome.
summer work is a little intense. A lot of people are like, "Oh, hey, have a great summer," and we're like,
"You've got 2,000
Right.
computers to image and update and make sure everything's up to date, and software is secure and all that kind of stuff."
Yeah. It is game on for us usually in the summer. So
it is. It's not a downtime. Tech department doesn't go away.
We don't have a downtime now.
Right. Well, there's been a lot of talk in recent years about cybersecurity, certainly student safety and those kind of things. Tell us a little bit about how we approach it and what happens in those two areas.
Sure. So we've been learning a lot. I mean, and it's we just said we have 4 people on our tech team, and that's very common in K-12 education. I mean, if you look at the numbers of tech people to employees, I mean, every education institution has that problem where they probably don't have enough people, right? Some corporations even have people that are literally just in charge of cybersecurity. So it's critically important. I mean, you've seen all of the news stories and reports, and we are one of the highest industries affected by cybercrime.
Right.
So, I mentioned earlier, John is in charge of our network, and he brings me articles all the time, sends me, articles where he's researching and constantly trying to stay aware of what's going on. We put in a firewall in place, and he's been tweaking the settings on that to keep us more secure. We are already kind of at 2 levels of security, at the county level and the state level. But then we also do our own security here in North Canton. Securely is a part of that. So parents may be very familiar with that piece. That is how we keep our kids safer, even safer than already the filters in place, with securely. And
yeah,
that follows
so
them into the home.
Yeah, when you talk about a firewall, that kind of prevents things from coming in.
Yes.
And we have some filters that keep our kids from going out to certain places.
Yes, we do. We control traffic as much as we can, yes.
Yeah. And then two reasons for that. One is safety of kids and going to appropriate places and information. The other one is for control of web traffic, basically, and with that many devices, and you've got a pipe going in and out of the district for technology levels, and it gets pretty full.
It does.
Yeah.
John's been watching. I think he even mentioned recently he's been watching the numbers, and we are constantly maxing out. Yeah. So even though we've increased, we tried to keep up with the demand. So,
sure.
But like I said earlier, technology is a piece of everything.
Yeah.
Everything that we do here, is on our network, and that's also trying to keep us secure with outside vendors,
right.
on our network. So it's just something we're consistently aware of.
And
we changed to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go right ahead.
We changed to passphrases from passwords.
Yes, we did.
Yep, everybody was really happy about that.
I think mine is 47 characters long. I really.
Yes, it might be. But they are much more secure. And for the listeners out there, your password, it's very important to make sure you have a very secure, not just complicated, but, we went to a 4-word system with spaces in between. Use spaces in your passwords. Make them 47 characters that you can remember,
right.
Hopefully. But,
I need some help with that.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes a challenge.
Yeah, nobody would ever guess my password. But
no.
anyways.
And hopefully it would take them a very long time to crack it. So.
Yes. And we do use special characters and all those things.
Yes.
And so advice for parents and folks off, out of the school setting is do those things with your passwords. Yep. That's for sure.
We all have to be safe.
Yeah. So I want to check in with you a little bit about Securely. That's it's a filter, number one, but it's also I'll call it a search flag.
Yes.
Our principals get, and tell me if you can fill in the spaces here, but with Securely, we have it on all of our student accounts, and so that anytime they're logged into an account, if they search for something inappropriate, our principals get a notification immediately that Jeff is searching for something that we've flagged or somebody has flagged as inappropriate. And we find this sometimes in health class. If somebody's searching for LSD or something like that, then the principals get a flag. And, of course, with about 10 minutes of research, and we call the health teacher and say, hey, are you doing a unit on drugs? And so we usually find out. But it does indicate our principals are able to have a conversation with little Jeff at times if he's doing a search for inappropriate things, and quite truthfully, and it works on that device even at home. And we've found that some parents occasionally, initially used a student device for some things that are outside of the student world, and
might not be Johnny Jr., might be Johnny Sr.
I think parents learned pretty quick what Schoology or what Securely was, and got notified. So little information our listeners didn't need to hear, but anyways, that's true. But it works and it's safe, and our principals get a lot of notifications of kids doing some things that they maybe shouldn't be getting into, and we have an eye on that. So and filters.
We have our teachers kind of trained now that they'll send me an email and say, hey, we're starting a unit on something that they know may have a keyword in there that would be something that would be flagged.
Sure.
So there are times that I will open up a filter if I know they're working on it for 3 days. I'll take the word out of the filter for a couple days, and then put it back in and when they're done, because that's the other thing. Yes, some of the words are, problematic.
Sure.
However, sometimes you're doing research about breast cancer, or you're doing research, about, some of the like to your point, drugs or whatever. So so we have a pretty good communication system with that. Matter of fact, I've let kids know. You let me know if you're doing a research paper on a topic and you keep getting blocked and you've got to get the information in order to, complete the paper. Just communicate with me and I'll work with you, to try to make sure that we can get you through to get the information that you need, but then keep everybody still secure. So, so it's been great. It also looks through emails, and it will pick up on distressful types of wording in emails. And, I think we've had that situation in the past where we've caught a few things with students, and been able to reach out to them and get them help that they need because we were
student
alerted
safety
to
is
that.
important. And we also use our other anonymous reporting system for that as well, and that's worked well. We believe we've saved lives with that program, and lots of schools use that.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool with the security and very important. And we face things all the time with people trying to get into our system and those kind of things, hacks, and that's done at several different levels, but we see it here locally too. So, good. Lots of things that our staff needs to be aware of too with, jump drives and all those things, and very scary stuff out there in the cyber world. But
very much so. And student data privacy, I think you had mentioned that before too. That is something that because of my CEDL work, and working with COSIN, that is something that's very important nationally, Student Data Privacy Consortium, and our Ohio COSIN chapter is working with that national organization, and we are, I'm getting involved now with getting those agreements from vendors so that every vendor that we have a connection with, that we have them signed off on what exact information they are taking.
They meet the privacy standards,
correct.
Good, good. And we require that. That's good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, as I said before, we are our primary, our model is teaching and learning, and to make sure our kids are prepared for tomorrow. But you're a huge service to that, then, and you meaning technology. But how do you support teaching and learning? And I know the answer, but basically everything that a teacher touches almost is included in technology. But any other comments on what you do to support teaching and learning?
Well, I think an interesting part, and I mentioned previously that a lot of tech directors either come from the IT world or come from the classroom, and I feel lucky that I've kind of had a foot in the IT world, but I've also, my whole beginning career was in the classroom. So I know what teachers are doing and why and what they want and what they need, and I pepper that in through when I talk to my team when we meet every week. If a teacher has a request, we talk about why. What's the educational benefit? And even if it's difficult for us to meet that request, if it's educationally beneficial, then we will do everything we can, to meet that need. Right. I'd have that, again, crossover with the instructional side. And, we want kids to be engaged in learning. I maybe wasn't the most engaged student when I was here. If my mom's listening, she would agree with that. But it was those hands-on classes like word processing that engaged me, and gave me a direction. And so that can happen in any classroom. Right. And I think that's kind of what we look to, like with something like Schoology or Kami or Screencastify. It's not just what's the new buzzword, what's the new app out there. It's how can we engage kids, to learn content in a way that they don't have to memorize it per se to spit it back out for a test, but they just understand it. And they can apply it, and, they grow from that. Maybe they want to learn more about it, or, it's that lifelong learning, that growth mindset, collaboration, like all of those words that I've said this before. We don't teach in the classroom sometimes the way we work in the world. Right. I mean, so we sit in the classroom and we, traditionally we would get information from a teacher who held the information. Right.
Yeah, the teacher of the textbook. And now that's not so.
It's not.
Yeah. Before a teacher is done talking about it, the kids can have 25 different resources to talk about that topic. So we need to teach our kids how to search for information appropriately, how to ask the right questions, how to verify that it's, all information is biased in some way, and to be able to recognize that, is this a biased piece of information? And then also how to verify it, and, is it valid? And there's lots out there, and not all of it's accurate.
Right. Yeah, and how do we lead them in discussions and discourse? And it's pretty exciting. The things that we can do with kids in the classroom now. So I look at it as our team. First of all, we try to keep everybody up and running. Right. If you can't use your tool, then the tool is not effective. Right. So we that's first and foremost. It's the stop, drop, and roll when somebody calls and needs help. But then it's also like, how can we get them the tools that they need to work with these kids in this way. Yep.
In order to be prepared for tomorrow, we want our kids to be problem solvers.
Yes.
And that means being able to find information and analyze it
and create,
create
collaboratively.
Yep, and work with others.
Yeah.
School's the only place you get in trouble for collaborating. When you graduate and go out in the world, you're expected to collaborate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about? We've talked about a lot today, but anything else you want to share about technology at North Canton City Schools?
Just that I'm sincerely proud of us. When I'm out around, I do a lot of work around the state and around the country, and my head is always held high. I'm always proud of, when it's my turn to talk about, what we're doing, initiatives and different things. I'm always proud because our staff here, they are engaged and interested, and they, they do great things with our kids, and our community, again, supports that work, and it supports that, we need technology in order to create these kids that can go out into the world and be productive. And I'm very thankful for that. I mean, I just feel like it's a great, great place.
Well, we're thankful for you and the job that you do and the product that you serve and all the things you do, and for being a Viking.
That's right. For life.
Yeah, we're proud of the district and the place that we're at in the use of technology, access to technology, and what we're doing for teachers and kids. And thank you for being that director and the leader in that. So appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. We want to thank our listeners for joining us today, and this podcast is a great way for us to share great information of things like technology and other things going on with the district. And if you have any questions about our podcast or want to suggest a topic for us to cover, please email us at vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. And we also welcome your thoughts on this podcast and any other items, but just give us a shout out and give us a call. And thanks for listening to us, and we'll be back next week. So go Vikings.
Go Vikings.